Yeah, I'm gonna get right into this. There's no other way of putting it. As much as myself and Liam have tried to digest it, Book of Boba Fett was a very mixed show that has a lot of positives, don't get me wrong. And I think episode 2, chapter 2 of that series is quite strong and it's completely Boba focused and it's really gave me a lot of hope that that season was going to be something really special. But it was a show entirely hijacked by the concept of Mando 2.5. And for many of you guys, when we talk about Mando 2.5, that might be like, what does that mean? Like, what do you mean? Is there something that I missed? Yeah. A lot of things that happened at the end of season 2 of Mandalorian were built off of and changed. Like the next step of that story was told in an entirely different show, which I mean, you can kind of understand from the Marvel cinematic films. That's what Favreau and Filoni say that they're inspired by. But most people were watching The Mandalorian very casually because it was a show that really connected with the general audiences. Yes, hardcore fans are going to watch Book of Boba Fett and did. So we got that story. But some of you guys might never have because you only really care about The Mandalorian. So when you're coming back to Mando Season 3 and you see Grogu is back with Din Djarin, he's got this new N1 starfighter. What's going on? Yeah, we had the same questions too. Don't worry. But in a strange way, those are also the best episodes of the Book of Boba Fett. Now, when I talk about the episodes of Mando 2.5, I am referring mostly to episode 5 and 6. But there's a third episode, the finale of Book of Boba Fett, where Din Djarin is a big player there, so I'm going to include that. And I'm not going to run into how I feel strongly about the last episode too much. But I will, quickly run through all these 3 episodes just to give you guys a bit of a recap and my overall thoughts once more. You can see our full reviews for these episodes on our channel. They're in a pretty close form to the quality that we have on our channel today. So, yeah, let's just dive into it. Chapter 5, Return of the Mandalorian, was directed once more by Bryce Dallas Howard and is written by Jon Favreau. It's an episode that when I was watching, I was like, oh wow, that's really cool. We have a cold open of Mando walking in. He's chopping down some fools who owe him money. Well, don't owe him money, but owe the guy that's paying for the bounty money. And he's able to do his iconic line of "I can bring you in warm or I can bring you in cold." And it's like how season 1 and season 2 open, but this time he's got the dark saber, and he's not so good at it. He kind of injures himself. Din does collect on the bounty. He beheads the guy. He goes to this Discworld station, which is like a station planet. I'm not really sure, but beautiful visual. And he collects on the bounty, and the directions that he gets from it is where the rest of his cohort is. The only people alive were the armor and Paz Vizsla, the super big Mando from season 1, who flies with the jetpack. And yeah, I mean, we get to see Din's pure Beskar spear melted down. We get to see the history of the Night of a Thousand Tears, which is why all the Mandalorians aren't on Mandalore, which is why Mandalore is destroyed. We get to see some training sequences, and we get to see Paz Vizsla challenge Din for the Darksaber. We get to see the armor create chainmail for Grogu. And we get to see, at the end of the final duel between Paz Vizsla and Din, that the armor asks if either of them have taken off their helmet in front of anyone or had it removed. And Din finally admits that he did. And the armorer says, the only way you can be forgiven is in the mines of the Mandalore, right? And the waters down there. And Mandalore is destroyed. And she replies, "This is the way." So, Din is like, all right, well, I'm not a Mandalorian now, but I still want to check out on my kid. So he goes to Tatooine, where Pelimoto once more returns and has promised him a new ship. In his mind, he thinks it's a new Razor Crest. It's not. But instead, it's the Naboo N1 Starfighter from Episode 1, just a little bit more of in a junk form. We get to see some very interesting and weird moments with Peli where she's really selling this ship, and Mando's like, okay, it's a Starfighter, I can go with it. And then build and work on that ship together. We find out Peli's had relationships with Jawas, which is so fitting for her, but only makes her crazier. And we get to see some beautiful flying in Beggar's Canyon, evoking a lot of the pod racing and a lot of Luke's references in the original Star Wars film. It's great. And Mando, he at the very end of the episode, he's met by Fennec, who climbs into the port and says that Boba needs some help. He's willing to pay you. And Din says, "Don't worry, this one's on the house, but I still got to do something first." Yeah, I mean, it's a fun episode. I think Bryce is again top form here. I don't know if I really love it because if you're gonna integrate this into the story, if you're gonna make these stories have characters take over other people's shows, you've got to at least give moments for these characters to shine. If you'd given 10 to 15 minutes of this episode to Boba, I would have been quite happy. But there's no Boba in this at all, which sucks. And I mean, it's fun seeing the setup of Din having his new ship, and it's really cool to see him zip past Carson Teva and yeah, just fly around Tatooine, especially the sequence of him taking off all his weapons and to go on the commercial transport back to Tatooine and then flying over and seeing that kid that he was seated just behind. All that's wonderful and pure Star Wars in a lot of ways. But it really hurt Book of Boba Fett. It was a good setup for, hey, Din has a cool new ship. Here we go. And that's really what the episode's about. I don't hate it, and it's really fun, but I don't know if it was necessary to take up like 40 minutes, maybe 20 to 25, and still continue Boba's story and what's going on Tatooine, and really flesh those characters out in a little bit more of a darker way too. So that leads us to the next episode, Chapter 6, From the Desert Comes a Stranger, written by Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau. And this was a bit of a misleading title because it's referencing a character that appears at the very end of the episode as a tag, essentially. Because this is mostly an episode that say, hey, Filoni, you want to just like flex all of these Star Wars characters that you've had a chance to work with, plus have them interact with characters that they've never seen before? And Filoni's like, sure, why not? And this is the episode that most of you guys heard about. It's the deep fake Luke episode. We get to see Mando travel to Ossus, which is a very Legends place for Jedi, both in ancient Tales of the Jedi time and whatnot. So that was very cool to see. And we get to see that this does confirm that the academy that we see burning in sequel trilogy is on this planet. It's at the very beginning stages. We get to see these like ant droids kind of build them. We see R2 direct Mando towards a bench that is being constructed and then shuts down because I guess you gotta wait a long time with Luke being out there with Grogu. And then we get to see Luke train Grogu, meditating, jumping around, showing off his lightsaber, telling him stories of Yoda, which is incredible just to see the dynamic of being trained by Yoda and now you're training someone of Yoda's species. It's a beautiful thing to see there. The deepfake Luke is a bit uncanny, I will not lie, but I think it's way more convincing than people give it credit for. It has a little bit of the dead eye stuff still, but it's a huge improvement on the Mando season 2 finale, which was just CGI'd. I think this is as close as you can get to the Rogue One Tarkin without having that much of a budget, at least in 2022. I'm sure in 2023, 2024, we'll see way better. And they are definitely hiding Luke still with some wide shots, and you can still hear the AI voice. That still needs a lot more improvement. It's a bit better than season 2 finale, but still. And yeah, I mean, it's a lot of philosophy. It's a lot of what it means to be a Jedi. We get to see Grogu actually be active, jumping around, being blasted by training remotes, and that's all wonderful stuff too. And we get to see Ahsoka meet up with Din again and have a moment with Luke saying so much like your father and all that. Like, wow, that's amazing. And it's also implied to not be their first meeting. So it's like, oh, interesting. I know they probably won't meet for a while now that she's getting her own TV show. She's going to explore different part of the galaxy with different people and whatnot. But man, I wish we can see like the original introduction. It has to happen somewhere. Maybe it happens in a flashback in Ahsoka. That's what I'm thinking. If there is a big criticism I have for this episode is all this Luke stuff and all that. It's great. It really pushes Grogu to decide between Yoda's old lightsaber and the chainmail of his father and to return back to Mando. And we do get to see a little bit of the Order 66 stuff. That's cool. But I don't know if we needed so much of a talking episode. Again, a lot of the stuff you can cut down, in my mind, 3 to 4 minutes. Maybe push a little bit more of the deepfake Luke in more action sequences instead of hidden away shots. And then continue building up Boba. Because Boba's in this episode at least, but doesn't really do anything. He just directs things about and sets things up for the finale. And then the finale is hijacked again by Cad Bane, another animated character entering into Star Wars live action, and that's awesome. But we don't really know him. It works well with the Timothy Oliphant, Cobb Van, justified inspired character. He has a cold open where he gets the Pikes to like drop their spice and go, and he kills a bunch of them. And it's a good like old Western standoff where he loses and his deputy also loses, and you get to really establish Cad Bane to a lot of newcomers that hey, he's had connections with Boba. He says Boba's not a good guy, and he's a killer himself, and a scary one at that, which is all awesome. But again, these are the two best episodes of Mando, the two most expensive looking ones of the whole season, and honestly, of the Book of Boba Fett. But you could have tweaked them a little bit more. You could have saved this one especially for the next season. I don't think you need to have Grogu be returned. I know how he works out in the finale, but I don't know. I don't think you needed to do that. And I'll quickly run over the finale. One is, again, only written by Jon Favreau, but directed once more by Robert Rodriguez. I remember Liam and I, anytime we saw who was directing the next episode of the Book of Boba Fett, if it was Rodriguez, we were kind of groaning. This is his strongest episode by far, but I still don't love it. I think a lot of the blocking of Robert Rodriguez was kind of fine in his episode in Mando Season 2, but throughout the show, and especially in this finale, he just has characters run up and down, left and right. There's no dynamism. There's some funny, weird spins from characters and all that. All the Boba and Mando cinematography is great, but everyone else is just jogging in place. I guess there might be COVID restrictions or whatnot. There's not really much to Din's story here other than we see Grogu return by R2 in the X-Wing. Mando takes care of him for a bit and then brings him into the huge battlefield that Din is fighting to the death with Boba. Yeah, they're reunited. It's a cute, tender moment, but even Din is saying, like, I really miss you too, little guy, but now is not exactly the time. It's like, I don't know. I'm fine with them being back. I think they need to explain it as like a 6 to 7 month absence at least, that there's still more stories that they could fill out in flashbacks or whatnot. But this specific meeting of Grogu being brought into this finale, I don't know. This in the last episode, you could have put early on into season 3 of The Mandalorian and maybe push the technology a little bit more so Luke is even more of an active player there. I think it's fine having Mando get a ship and then he's brought into this conflict. But instead of having Grogu calm down Boba's rancor, maybe you could have built up the legend of Din, struggling with blurgs to now being able to ride a rancor as well and control it. Maybe that does take away from Boba Fett. That is the predicament that you've already put this character in for his own show. But I don't know. I don't know if we needed to see this reunion right away. I think season 3, even if it was early on, I would have been way happier with that than with this. We needed to see a little bit more of that early chapter 5 of the Book of Boba Fett, Din Djarin, kind of struggling on his own, dealing with his culture, returning back to his cult and what they're thinking and saying. That's just me. But if you haven't seen Mando 2.5, it's on Disney Plus. Just scoot on over there. But if not, I've given you everything you kind of really need to know. Just watch the clips on YouTube or wherever. You'll be set up for season 3 of Mando. It sucks that it's not part of Mando itself, and it seems like Skeleton Crew and Ahsoka will not have the same problem of their stories continuing into another TV show. Maybe characters can show up, but not their stories. That's what Filoni and Favreau have remarked pretty recently in the press. But yeah, I mean, Mando season 3 is right around the corner, guys. It's literally this week. Can't wait for it. Hope this recap helped you guys. Once more, thank you guys so much for watching the Star Wars Lads. Make sure to like and subscribe to this video and leave your comment down below. Your thoughts on Mando Season 2 and Mando 2.5. How have they held up so far? Are we building up to something super big and awesome? Is there some things that still need to be changed with the formula? Just any thoughts that you have in general. And make sure to follow us on our socials. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. You can also listen to us on audio podcasts. You can find us on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and so many other platforms as well. Again, starting this week, we will have Wednesday reviews of both The Mandalorian Season 3 and The Bad Batch Season 2. We'll probably combine those episodes into one review unless the Bad Batch has a really significant episode that'll be dropped separately. And predictions for both will still be dropped on separate days. We're still figuring that out. Probably a Friday, Saturday drop for Mando and for the Batch predictions there. And as always, we'll have our Monday specials from me and Liam. We just started our new bracket as well, so make sure to check out that video for an explanation on that. Hope you guys are voting on that. And yeah, once more, thank you guys so much for checking out this Mando recap retrospective review of Season 2, 2.5, and previously on Season 1. Mando Season 3, let's get into it. See you guys on Wednesday.